Hi, everyone. My name is Dominica Zhu. I'm the founding director of Global Wisdom Collective. Global Wisdom Collective was founded in 2020, so we're a fairly new organization. But I personally have been doing work around intergenerational dialogues for over a decade now. So we do work around facilitating these intergenerational dialogue, knowledge sharing frameworks for Indigenous and diaspora communities, so that youth and elders can have a space to record their Indigenous knowledge systems. And so that, we don't have this issue where elders do not feel, Indigenous elders specifically, do not feel valued for their entire life work as living libraries. And the youth, understand too that there is so much value in their own indigeneity and their ancestral practices. And we met Carson at a virtual conference, and we decided to just, connect virtually. And I think when at that stage, we both realized through our conversation that we had very similar dreams and passions. We both had experiences of questioning, or being questioned for why we're doing what we're doing and why we care so much about our own indigeneity and the ancestral practices. And it just became a very natural friendship and partnership. And when I said that, with the founding of Revitalize the Roots initiative, which is something that was one of the first programs with Global Wisdom Collective, when I shared with him that it's always been a dream to be able to help other Indigenous communities create programs and vessels so that the youth come back home and they record their own elders and it's protected and it's completely in their own language. And how can we do this so that the Indigenous knowledge systems have a home and they're not being erased? He said he wanted to do that in his community, and that's kind of how it was all born in the first place. So Revitalize the Roots, Bikaptorois is our, I would say it's born out of the partnership between Jamii Asilia Center, which is Carson's organization, and Global Wisdom Collective. And the goal of that program, which we are going to be starting this year, aims to record around 15 to 20 elders of the Endorois community. And the aim is to create that intergenerational knowledge sharing framework within the community so that around 40 Endorois youth are engaged to record around 15 to 20 elders. So they'll be paired off. It'll be a lot of audiovisual documentation. We're going to be working with partners on the ground that have been doing this work for many, many years to be able to prioritize which elders are holding specific Indigenous knowledge systems that we can't afford to lose, which honestly is probably all of them. But we are really aiming to record systems of pastoralism, medicine, spirituality, beekeeping, and a lot of the traditional ways of life of the Endorois people that have kept the area of Lake Bogoria in harmony for over, I think, 400 years. It is a very urgent task because of the fact that elders are dying at an alarming rate, especially because of the pandemic. Food sovereignty issues, nutritional related issues because of the way the soil has moved to maybe more mainstream agricultural practices. So people, just lives are changing, diseases are becoming more prevalent that weren't there before. So the elders that are around that are holding all basically the encyclopedia of knowledge of the entire way of life of that region are slowly disappearing. I don't know specifically the exact number, but we were told it was close to 100 remaining. And so it's really happening at a really fast rate. And even for us, when we first started planning this project, we lost a few of the elders that we were planning to record. So, and we're also building a digital repository where all of the knowledge is going to be housed. And it's going to be completely privatized in the Torois language, not translated in English. And the youth are going to be taught and trained as well, and hopefully feeling confident to upload on that repository as often as they like for many, many years to come. This program is really encouraging the Endorois youth that their Indigenous knowledge systems is not only valuable, but more almost the most important thing that they can preserve. Otherwise, it's just textbooks that other people wrote. That's not about them. And that's what, I grew up with, and a lot of people that were heavily Westernized grew up with. So because these Indigenous knowledge systems are passed on orally, we're hoping that by having records of it from the elders themselves, it will be it'll be something that the youth can take into their own hands, because our future generations are so creative in how they want to learn and how they want to participate and engage with the world. And I think our job in this generation is at least make sure that they have the record of the past, and they can also, take that as a springboard to hopefully adopt indigenous knowledge systems as the way of life again, and to kind of reverse a lot of the damage that's been done. I mean, that's our hope, but the first thing is to be able to have it on record before the elders pass away. And not only just before they pass away, but we want them to know that, we haven't forgotten you, and or your systems are there. They don't need to be invisible anymore. And again, we're not sharing these systems with others, but at least within the community, we want to. That's why we called it the Revitalize the Roots, to create that energy again, for our own ancestral wisdom. And so So we're very grateful for Azimuth and Rockstead for their support on this, in this phase. And I think moving forward, we definitely see this as a catalyst for the community. I think even just through conversations with Carson and the other Endorois community members, this hasn't been done before at this scale, and it's always been a desire that we've even found from just through conversations like, what about the elders? What about the elders? How are we going to make sure that we are preserving what they know? So we do hope for that continuous uploading, and part of the program that we're running in this phase is to create that training for that to happen, and to just make it really easy. And then in the future, there are hopes to refurbish a community center. So it will be a physical location where folks can actually record there, if they don't want to do it in their own home, and then they can also see the recordings that others have done and learn, maybe as a reminder, maybe even for the first time. So we don't want to stop at this phase, and we have hopes to record, all of the elders as time and energy allows for everyone. So that would be a very big dream. Yeah, so the overall vision of Revitalize the Roots was really to be working with partner organizations and indigenous communities on the ground to create intergenerational knowledge frameworks that would work for that community. So what we're doing with the Endorois people will be very different than, say, if we go to the Tibetan people or the Khmer people. So it really is just based on where that community is at. So for example, Global Wisdom Collective did a project within the so-called Seattle region over the summer, because it was during the pandemic. And so most of those folks were refugees. So we worked with where they were at, and the land that we were at, which was foreign to where they came from. So, but we didn't miss an opportunity to still record their knowledge, because it still lived within them, regardless of where they were at in the world, their physical body, I would say. So we hope to be able to do something similar where if other communities are interested, even family units, we're not partial to just saying individuals, families, organizations, communities, but we want to be able to pass on our practices, our model, and what we've learned. We're planning to create a digital toolkit that records a lot of the learnings that we have, and not to say these are as a rule book by any means, because it's such a sensitive and sacred space to work in, that there's no like one rule, but at least we can save people a lot of time by sharing some of these frameworks that we've developed and that we are, refining with Carson's community. So yes, it is our vision to be able to bring this to other communities, to even create sort of an incubator where a lot of these communities can come together and share, what's working for them, what's not, because a lot of times the challenges are very similar. Reluctance sometimes from the elders, because they have gone through so much trauma and they don't like to be recorded. That creates a lot of anxiety for a lot of people. Really having youth understand the why for this, and that it's not just asking questions, but it's really, you guys are going to be the new stewards of this knowledge moving forward, and what is your role in that? So we hope to be able to share with other groups if they want to work with us, and we can partner with them. We'd love to do that. And I think so often there's a lot of pride in, and especially now, there's been this pride in being as a there's a lot of terms, people of color, BIPOC, all these different, acronyms. And really, I think what is always missing in that conversation is what happened to our indigenous people, and what about our indigenous knowledge system. And so I believe it's really important for indigenous and diaspora people to return back and be part of preserving our indigenous knowledge systems, because frankly, we're all, brainwashed to some degree on a lot of the Western influences, and we've forgotten, and there's a big period of forced amnesia to some degree. So I do think we're in this period of remembering, and programs like this and organizations like Global Wisdom Collective and Jamii Asilia Center, I think we're just the ones that haven't forgotten. And I believe that investing in indigenous knowledge systems and the communities that are holding it, which are indigenous people, is going to be the key to solving a lot of our world's issues. They like to create categories for this climate crisis conversation, but really, indigenous people have been the ones that have been protecting our biodiversity, keeping the earth in harmony pretty naturally as just a part of and way of life. So protecting these types of life ways and philosophies is just going to be really important. For example, in our culture with Chinese medicine, we've done things for over 4,000 years that people are still trying to figure out now, and science, hasn't quite nailed it. So there's just something to the harmony that we used to have, and to the alignment that we used to have with nature. So the folks that hold that, it's not a theoretical knowledge, it was a way of life for many thousands of years. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's important to invest in indigenous-led programming and peoples altogether, is by investing in preventing these cultures from becoming extinct. And not only that, investing in their thriving as being, humanized folks in society that can participate, that can be at every table. We are pretty much voting for the earth, because I would say indigenous peoples are sort of the nature's voice, and nature can't necessarily speak for herself in a way that we can understand, but the indigenous people's language, everything was in alignment to that. So I would say it's the closest thing to having nature at the table. So I think by investing in indigenous people, we're investing in right now the voiceless aspects of Mother Earth. We don't have the inspiration from the organization primarily came from my own background as a diaspora from Thai and Tibetan ancestry, but born in the West. My mother is a traditional Chinese medical healer, and through her immigration, she, within this country, established a clinic. And from a young age, I learned our medicine in very, very, almost as if it was a third parent. So I became very aware at a younger age that what I was receiving in terms of how I was looking at the world was very different than my Western, friends. And I became very protective of the way that we were viewing our world through our medicine, because of the discrimination that we faced as a Chinese family, but also, there was a lot of bullying with traditional medicine and things of that nature. So I started recording her knowledge very early on, and that just became sort of a practice I did, and I didn't really think much of it until I realized that I was keeping hours of records of her medicine. And that kind of inadvertently led to the founding of Global Wisdom Collective, because I realized, and upon meeting other elders, and especially doing a lot of work abroad as a humanitarian, I realized a lot of elders were not really recording their knowledge. The youth were not in positions to come back sometimes to their own ancestral land, and the elders were not feeling valued at all. So I just started doing that work, and then Global Wisdom Collective was founded, and it became a way to create this work on a larger scale. So we Revitalize the Roots, Bikaptorois is going to be in effect this year. So there's definitely opportunities to continue supporting this phase, as well as the development of the future phases, which we already have planned. And we do plan on going to other communities. So the support in terms of monetarily or just thought leadership and resources and things like that is just going to be really helpful to continuously help build the resource container for these programs to exist. And Global Wisdom's Collective specifically focuses on preserving Indigenous knowledge systems by supporting our organization. You'll be supporting the container that leads to making sure that these Indigenous knowledge systems do not go extinct. And then Carson's Jamii Asilia Center does amazing work all over Kenya, but also specifically within the Endorois community. So these are all ways there were Indigenous-led organizations that people can support to make sure that the rights of our people are heard, our culture is being preserved, our language, and that's the other thing I forgot to mention. Language preservation is really important. So these are all different things that we work on, and that, with other collaborators, other partners, it will all help. And every single supporter has been a part of getting us to where we're at right now. So thank you all.